Regal Classic, the top-ranked local sophomore, is a flashy copper-colored son of Vice Regent from a family of champions who sports a solid yet trimmer physique than in his juvenile campaign when he floored the opposition with stretch drives such as in the prestigious Coronation, his 4th romp in a row. A nagging winter virus, however, resulted in a costly conditioning setback this spring. But Regal Classic was all heart in the Kentucky Derby as he tackled more seasoned rivals and was only 4 lengths back. Since returning home to Woodbine, Regal Classic has regrouped. His winning effort over Granacus in the plate trial was workmanlike. Pursued to the final furlong, he would not buckle. Regal Classic is all set to defend his status this afternoon and will be looking shiny and polished. Granacus is a horse of a different color. A beautifully turned out bay. He raced in Regal Classic Shadow last fall, finishing up elated second behind the champion in the Rich Cup and Saucer Stakes on the turf. Granacus worked diligently over the winter in Florida and learned his lessons well, maturing both mentally and physically. So much so that in the Bluegrass Stakes in April in Kentucky, Granacus streaked from the outside to KO his field, leaving Regal Classic a crestfallen third. It was hoped the Derby would be his finest hour, but the circled action shows it was his most harrowing experience as he almost fell. Granacus takes his name from a famous battle. He is indeed a feisty warrior from a Venezuelan sire out of an Irish dam whose blood runs hot for revenge.
We're in the presence of British royalty at today's Queen's Plate, and if American horse players could vote, Julie Krone would be the princess of American racing. Julie, 6 winners, a record at Monmouth Park, a record 4 winners for a female rider at New York. What would a win in the Queen's Plate mean to your career?
It's obviously not until I arrived did I realize that the tradition and the excitement and everything in the air, and it's a very special day. And winning a race like this could mean a lot to any jockey's career. It would probably be one of the, biggest highlights and one of the biggest accomplishments. It's a very exciting day.
What do you know about your mount? No malice.
Other than just reading the form, the horse has a little bit of speed, and there's speed in the race, and you just kind of have to take it from there. Going that distance, you have to try to be a little more natural and just let the horse do his thing and kind of just have a good trip and some luck.
Okay, and Brian, some inside information for you. Julie Krone stays cool on hot days. She puts ice cubes in her rider's helmet, so how about that?
Well, I'll tell you something. Julie Krone has had great success here at Woodbine this year so far, Jim.
Won just the other day, the Dominion Day. As a matter of fact, she's only had 2 mounts in Canada, won them both. Last year, the Prince of Elizabeth Stakes with a horse called Galway Song. So, perfect record going into the plate.
The Queen's Plate has been, I guess we can say, a graveyard for favorites over the years. You never know where the winners are going to come from.
To smack your head sometimes. Some of these horses just look like cinches and don't end up with the win end. Going back to 1983, Bompego was the last winning favorite, but in 1985, when Imperial Choice was favored, who would think the filly would come along and win it? In 1986, No Louder looked like a cinch, but a maiden beat him. 1987, everyone said it was a fleet, but of course, King Haven with market control came and got it all.
And of course, Regal Classic is the favorite for this year's Queen's Plate, the 129th edition. Right now, let's continue our tale of the plate, our comparison of the top stables, and right now, let's take a look at the 2 favored owners. The owner of Granacus has become recognized around North American racetracks as one of the game's growing powers. And it's a handle Steve Stavros is used to in the business world as the head of the huge Nob Hill food chain empire. His success in business goes back a long way, and now his racing success is gaining ground. He still visits every store at the crack of dawn to personally supervise the entire operation right down to the final detail. He's led at the racetrack by 8, and this shy Macedonian immigrant has already accomplished what most people do in a full day.
I love the sports, the horse racing business from way back, and I look forward to it. At that time, around the Woodbine, there was a big wooden fence, and you couldn't look through it, so you had to break a hole somewhere in the fence to take peer through it to see these horses. My father always told me, keep away from that racetrack. He says, you can't make money and gamble, so we go back a few years.
His wife, Sally, is Steve's best friend and right arm, and she, too, remembers humble beginnings and is grateful.
Toronto or Canada's been very good to us. We've been very fortunate. Hope we've given some to Canada, too, but we've been very lucky.
like anyone in business today, they get a great kick sponsoring amateur sports, whether it's schools and that, because it keeps the kids busy. And it's the cheapest investment to sponsor, whether it's a hockey team or some sports team. It keeps them off the streets, and we get a great feeling as corporate, as business people in the community.
Strong men take victory and defeat with equal grace. The competition remains the challenge.
It's great to win, but it's also, you got to know when you get in there, you could lose too. Like we did with Wohlart 2 years ago. He was sort of a pretty top favorite, and he got injured right in the Queen's Plate. So we've had the downs and ups, and we're not afraid. You know, if it comes our way, fine. If it doesn't, well, we carry on.
If anyone is heir to the racing legacy of E.P. Taylor, it could very well be Ernie Samuel. As chief of Samuel & Son Steel, he too claims wide respect in the business world. And his Sampson Farm racing and breeding empire has consistently produced champions leading the way in Canadian racing. The similarities with Taylor and Winfield's carry over into business, as he shares 25% ownership of Regal Classic with the famous Canadian breeder. His hectic schedule this week included a steel plant opening in Calgary, a yearling sale purchase as he continues to enrich his stable of champion thoroughbreds in search of even more wins. His business success and racing achievements are many. The Queen's Plate, though, has eluded even Ernie Samuel. That could all change today.
Well, Ernie, over the years, you've had 12 horses start in the Queen's Plate, and you haven't won it yet. I imagine there's been a lot of champagne on ice, all dressed up with nowhere to go. What were those Saturday afternoons like?
Well, they range from, of course, the disaster of Dauphin to, you know, running well, but not well enough, Dan. No, we don't ice the champagne. I'm afraid that jinxes us. We'll scramble somehow if we get lucky and get there first.
Now, there's been some comparisons drawn between Jim Day and Wayne Lucas, the obsession of winning a big race. Has it reached that point for Samson Farm?
Oh, no, I don't think there's any obsession. I mean, all good trainers and enthusiastic owners, you want to win every race, and certainly important stake races. And here we are at the big one, the Queen's Plate. So sure, we want to win it, but you got to keep it in perspective. It is a horse race, and if we don't get it done today, although I am as confident as you can be in a horse race, well, we'll regroup and have another try next year. Just keep cracking.
Thank you for joining us, and the best of luck in the Queen's Plate.
Thanks very much, Dan.
Ironic to think that Ernie Samuel thought about putting Regal Classic up for sale as a yearling. You can bet he's glad he didn't do that. We'll be back with more from the Queen's Plate right after this.
It's nowhere near the $1 million purses later this year. The Molson Million, the Arlington being run here at Woodbine, moved from Chicago. Maybe the Rothmans will be over $1 million. In spite of the relatively small purse, this is the race with the stature.
Yes, it's kind of a conundrum almost, isn't it? You would think that in a sport where money talks, the horses would go to the bigger purses. But this race dates back to 1860 when Don Juan was the first winner. Just dripping with prestige, and it's a very important race to win. This is the most important race for a Canadian-bred 3-year-old. This is the race that they'll be remembered for all their life.
Let me bring in Dan Kenny. Dan, we just had a shot of trainer Pat Collins there. You've been visiting with Collins in Granacus yesterday and today. Granacus has been a wild horse all week. What about today?
Well, Brian, I'd like to touch on the rumor that got started. It wouldn't be a big race without a big rumor. And on Tuesdays, you know, they have the traditional showing here under the willow trees and the walking ring, a barbecue, and Pat's horse Granacus did not show up. And of course, the rumor started that he had colic, that perhaps he wasn't at his best. Pat said, this is a high-strung horse. He's feeling great. He said, I was afraid that he might possibly hurt himself. He said, I could get him over there all right, but I was concerned about getting him back in one piece. He said, the Queen's Plate means more than the barbecue.
Let me ask you, Dan, and also Jim, we're going to talk about the jockeys in just a minute. I was going to ask you about the fact that Dave Penna has ridden both Regal Classic and Granacus. Before we do that, though, we've already talked about Regal Classic and Granacus. Right now, Jim, tell us about some of the other contenders.
Well, we just saw the number 5 horse, Lucky J.W., going in there. He was a modest purchase for only $10,000. Ryan, we have horses that have some idiosyncrasies here, of course. This is a donut eater.
All right, let's have more on the contenders, Jim.
Regal Intention, like his entry mate Regal Classic, is a homebred son of Canada's outstanding sire, Northern Dancer's son, Vice Regent. In winning the 7-furlong Queenston Stakes in May, Regal Intention employed his usual strong front-running style. Regal Intention took a different path to the plate, winning last weekend's Victoria Park Stakes over a charging, rather theatrical. With 5 career stakes wins and earnings of $314,000, Regal Intention arrives at the plate in peak form with ample credentials. Regal Intention and his mate Regal Classic have adjacent stalls at Woodbine, making it convenient to swap Queen's Plate strategy. Jockey Jack Lazon admits to a sneaking suspicion that his mount Regal Intention will not be caught on Sunday. Tajabo sports a fashionable pedigree, being the first crop of deputy minister, a dual Canadian and American champ. Lightly raced as a 2-year-old by neophyte trainer Mike Mattini, Tajabo is now peaking as evidenced by his 3rd-place finish in the trial behind Regal Classic. Tajabo heads into the plate with 2 wins in his last 4 races, and his best is in front of him yet. A solid 1-mile work on Monday has Mattini thinking very positively.
I really think Tajabo will run a real good race today. Where he finishes, we'll find out later on. But judging by his last race in the Queen's Plate trial and his last work on Monday, I think this horse will run really, really well.
Tajabo is hoping to upset the Sampson favorites in the plate, and jockey David Clark, who already has 2 long-shot wins, has the mount.
Regal Classic, the son of Vice Regent, is the favorite, Jim.
Well, he's won $964,000, Brian, and as Sue alluded to earlier, a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place finish in this race will make him Canada's newest millionaire. Struck down with a virus earlier this season in Florida. It set him back a little bit, had his feet trimmed a little too closely, also caused him a good deal of discomfort. He's won 6 of his 14 races, comes off back-to-back wins here. We see Jimmy Day, I think quiet confidence. Sally is groomed, just attending to him there. His disposition is probably his most important asset. You see how he was taking everything in stride there.
Much like his trainer.
Very much so.
All right, Dan Kenny, how about Grenakis? His disposition is anything but quiet.
Grenakis is the type of horse. There's Regal Intention as we see him. Regal Intention, to stay with him for a second, this begins to remind me of the Wood Memorial 1973. All the attention centered on Secretariat, and the entry mate Anglelight went to the front and never looked back. And sometimes in a big race, it helps to be a horse that they're not paying much attention to. The horse is 5 out of 6. He has great speed. If the jock gets him over on the rail, Jack Lazon, he might forget to stop, going 1.25 miles. Getting back to Grenakis, this horse has been brought along so well and so timely by Pat Collins. The trial was designed to build up confidence not only in the horse but also in the owner and trainer after that disastrous Belmont, and he seems to be coming to the race tip-top. At this time of year, I look for horses to be showing their ribs, that maybe they're going over the top, that they've had too much racing. Not the case for Grenakis, not the case for Regal Classic. They are dead fit.
All right, Dan and Jim, I asked you earlier about Dave Penna. He's been up on both Regal Classic and Grenakis. Go ahead first, Dan.
Dave Penna has got the catbird seat to be able to know, the relative strengths of these horses. I'm sure if he had his choice, he'd rather be riding either one of them. This game is very difficult for riders. Keep in mind that Jacinto Vasquez, who rides Grenakis, he was the rider on Risen Star until he was replaced just before the Kentucky Derby. So it's very much of a dicey business for the riders.
I know that Dave Penna would certainly like the ride on the Regal Classic. It looked a little earlier this season that he was going to get it. He guided him to 4 consecutive added money events last year and was second with him in the Breeders' Cup. And we see the crowd just milling around there, a high state of anxiety now. Let's get this going.
That appears to be the feeling of Grenakis, as again he has been frisky and raring to go all week. How about the speed horse? Somewhat of a mystery, Baldsky's Prize, owned by Jack Carmichael, who won with Fiddle Dancer Boy. Jim?
Unknown quality to this point, Brian. He'll be battling for the lead. How far he goes is anybody's guess.
All right, Baldsky Prize will be very interesting to watch here this afternoon. We continue now our comparison, the tale of the tape, tale of the plate of the top stables, Nob Hill and Sampson. And right now, let's take a look at the trainers, Pat Collins and Jim Day.
Jim Day, captain of the Sampson juggernaut, has twice been selected Canada's outstanding trainer and twice has led Sampson to the money title. But winning his old hat to the 1968 Olympic gold medal winner, whose equestrian skills have taken him to 3 Olympic Games. Day's current project is getting Regal Classic to the Queen's Plate in top shape.
Well, I think that Regal Classic, has run very well all season, and he's coming up to the Queen's Plate, I think, in top condition, touch wood. And with a little luck, he should be able to run very well, and I expect him to be a major contender here in the plate today.
Day, who celebrated a birthday this week, is liberal with his praise of Regal Classic.
It seems like he can just do about anything on any surface and any distance, so I think that he's probably the best we've had so far to this point.
Irish-born Pat Collins has aggressively marshaled the Stavros stable to its highest profile ever, and Collins has carefully mapped out Granakis' challenge.
Granakis will come from behind as he normally does in his races, and he makes his run from the 3/8 pole. Today he won't be racing any differently. He'll come from out of it, and hopefully he'll have a good early pace up front, and he'll make his way home from the 3/8 pole without any traffic.
A vigorous preparatory workout through Woodbine's stretch was ordered this week, and the way Granakis ate up the ground was visibly pleasing to the onlooking Collins.
I think he'll do better. I think the extra 1/8 of a mile will be definitely in his favor, and I think he's a fitter horse and a more prepared horse this time.
All that Collins could do has been done. Now, time for reflection of what lies ahead.
And there is one lucky Irishman, Pat Collins, with jockey Jacinto Vasquez. And Pat has made the most of a monumental opportunity provided him by the Nob Hill owner, Steve Stavros. Pat was a boy wonder. He was the racing secretary at Woodbine at age 25. That's a job where you make more enemies than you do friends, as Granakis walks around the trees in the walking ring here. And as I say, in a highly charged political job, after Pat left that job, he was a bloodstock agent for a while, and then Steve Stavros wanted him as a private trainer. He took the trainer's test not once, but twice, and was failed both times at Woodbine. He had to go to Belmont Park to get his license, and he has come back to Canada somewhat of a conquering hero. Pat's one to let sleeping dogs lie. He would much prefer to have Granakis do the talking for him in the Queen's Plate today. And there he is, the big horse, the one that the crowd wants to see, Regal Classic. And Regal Classic favored one more time in the Samson colors. And my own feeling is that today is the day. Samson and Winfield's. And Winfield's, of course, has won and bred more Queen's Plate winners than any outfit in history. That could be the potent combination. And, Sue, that's the way it is down here in the walking ring.
Well, certainly exciting as the tension mounts. Well, as we all know, trivia has grown over the years, and we have a Queen's Plate trivia quiz for you. Here are the horses who hold the 4 fastest times ever in the Queen's Plate. Our question is, who holds the record for the fastest time in the Queen's Plate? We'll be back with the answer and more from the Queen's Plate at Woodbine in just a moment. Road, a tall, lean colt, took the plate honors and then went on to be one of the best racehorses on the continent. His time of 2:03 was good, but not best. After shattering the course record at the Kentucky Derby in 1964, E.P. Taylor's Great Northern Dancer included a plate victory to his credit. Over a fast track, he was 2:02 and won. Deciding between the Belmont and the Plate in 1960, Taylor ran Victoria Park at home, and with Avelino Gomez up, won in resounding style. His time for the 1.25 miles was a blazing 2:02 flat. And then, in 1978, Canada's finest rider, Sandy Hawley, led his mount to victory in the Queen's Plate, tying Victoria Park's record with a time of 2:02.
Well, we talk about the warm weather here, the big crowd in the walking ring area behind the main grandstand. Jim Bannon and I have just moved from the back of the grandstand. We were sitting about 2 levels up, the picture you're looking at now, out to the front of the grandstand area. And I tell you, we are huffing and puffing in this heat and humidity. It has to be so very, very tough on those horses. And Jim, right now, let's take a look at the current odds.
Brian, the entry of Regal Classic and Regal Intention, we started them at 3 to 5. They're 3 to 5 now. That's a 360 payoff. The entry, rather theatrical, Tajabo 10 to 1, not taking too much support. Grace Kelly, a real long shot at 24 to 1. The horse that is getting some action is number 7, Granakis. We started him at 5 to 2, a $7 payoff. He's right there now. The horse that the public is just nibbling at, Brian, the number 6 horse, Balsky's Prize. As we said, he's an unknown quantity right now. He has very good early speed. How far he'll go, we don't know. But by the time they hit the 3/8 pole on this course, you'll see that they start out of a chute on the left-hand side of your screen, run a 1/4 mile to the finish, and once more around this oval track. And about the 1/4 pole, the story should be unfolding.
All right, Jim, before running down this 11-horse field, very quickly, the track. Sue talked about track records here in the Plate. What about the track so far today?
Trip handicappers around the country will know what I say, track bias. That means that the track is favoring speed today. It's been happening the last 3 or 4 days here, particularly the inside is good. So horses with just average speed or better than average speed usually carry it. That'll be a very negative thing for Grenakis, who's dependent on a big run from behind.
It's an 11-horse field. We begin with the entry from Sampson Farm. Here is Regal Classic, the son of Vice Regent, 5th in the Kentucky Derby, beat Grenakis in the plate trial. He's ridden by 4-time plate winner Sandy Hawley. Look at that confident, relaxed horse. The other half of the entry is Regal Intention, ridden by Jack Lozon. He's a speed horse. However, the feeling is Jim Day will run him to win and not as a rabbit for Regal Classic. Rather theatrical, the first half of the Burnett entry, only 2 wins in 10 races. However, Dave Penna has ridden both Regal Classic and Grenakis, could be a factor today. Number 2B is Tejabo, the other half of the entry, 3rd in the plate trial behind Regal Classic and Grenakis. Keep in mind, David Clark is a 2-time Queen's Plate winner. Number 3, the lone filly, Grace Skelly. She has that 5-pound weight advantage over the boys. A poor 10th, though, in the Oaks. June 19th, Brian Swatuk won the plate with steady growth in 1979. Number 4 is King Haven Sweeping Change. King Haven won last year with Market Control, and I should point out Sweeping Change is a son of the great Secretariat. 15 years ago, he won the Triple Crown. Lucky JW is number 5. Did not race as a 2-year-old, was 5th in the plate trial, 8 lengths behind Regal Classic. Here's the speed horse, number 6, Bolsky's Prize, owned by Jack Carmichael, who won with Fiddle Dancer Boy in 1981. Robin Platts is a 4-time plate winner. Grenakis, owned by Steve Stavros and ridden by Jacinto Vasquez. Number 7, won the Grade 1 Bluegrass down at Keeneland in April, has never won in Canada. Frisky, somewhat high-strung, and as we say, he's been raring to go all week, should be a good sign. No Malice, another speed horse, is number 8. In fact, set the early pace in the plate trial before falling to 4th. The Meadowlands champion, you heard from her, Julie Krone, making history. She won the Dominion Day Handicap. She is the rider. And appropriately named, Plate Dancer is number 9, 7th in the plate trial. He's ridden by Wesley Ward, an Eclipse winner, as the top apprentice in North America. Well, Dan Loisel is the voice of thoroughbred racing here at Woodbine this afternoon. Dan, you're up on the roof where you'll call the race. You have seen these horses, I would say, probably more than anyone else here except the trainers. Yeah. How, Dan, do you see this race shaping up today?
Brian, there's lots of speed in here, and it's all from the outside of the gate. Baldsky's Prize, Tejabo, No Malice, Regal Intention, they'll be out quickly early. I can see Regal Classic about 4 or 5 lengths off the lead in mid-backstretch. Grenakis, like Pat Collins said, is going to make one big run from the 3/8 pull to the wire. I can see Regal Classic hitting the front just into the stretch, but I think Sandy Hawley's going to be very busy on him. This colt has a reputation for loafing when he gets to the front, and Sandy will be working on him to keep his mind on the business. If Grenakis is going to beat Regal Classic this afternoon, I think he has to surprise him, get by him quickly. If he inches up, Regal Classic has the type of constitution, Brian, that I think he could fight Grenakis off. But Regal Classic and Grenakis, they should be the final 2 horses through the stretch, battling it out. I think Regal Classic will prevail.
All right, thank you very much, Dan. We'll get back to you shortly for the 129th running of the Queen's Plate as we continue live on Sports Weekend from beautiful Woodbine in Toronto. In the presence of royalty, Princess Margaret in attendance. Stay with us. We'll be right to post as we come back to Woodbine. Rain threatening. Hopefully it will hold off. And Jim, how about the current odds?
The Sampson entry of Regal Classic and Regal Intention frozen. That's the right word today, Brian. I don't know. At 3 to 5.
Like a popsicle.
That's right. Rather theatrical at 10 to 1. The horse that's really getting the support is number 7, Grenakis. It's hard to take support into an entry that's 3 to 5, and he's doing it.
Well, you talk about support. The fans here at Woodbine have been giving tremendous support to the favored son, Sandy Hawley, who's back home from California. Right now, let's continue our tale of the tape, tale of the plate, as we take a look at the jockeys. The famous form of Sandy Hawley in a victorious ride is unmistakable to Canadian fans. In fact, his likeness is permanently displayed in the Woodbine walking ring, honoring his winning achievements in the same year he would win his first Queen's Plate. That was aboard Ulminer in 1970. 8 years later, he captured his 4th plate title, a record he shares with Robin Platts and the late Avelino Gomez. With so many achievements in a career spanning North America, he clearly remembers his best Queen's Plate mount, a horse regarded as one of the greats.
I think Kennedy Rowe probably is the best Canadian bred. I rode him in the Queen's Plate, and he won the Queen's Plate very easily. I think he won by 5 lengths. But I think Regal Classic's in his class, too. He's done everything I've asked him, and he's done it fairly easily. So looking forward to this week's Queen's Plate.
Focused on the task at hand, he hopes his winning form continues from 2 weeks ago.
Granacus had made his run at the head of the stretch, and I think he was as close to me at the head of the stretch as he was at the wire. Regal Classic, when he gets to the lead, and he kind of pulls himself up a little bit, and I think if he had a solid competition, he would have come back on again.
If you had to pick a 1, 2, 3.
That's a tough one. I'd have to say maybe Regal Classic, Granacus, and Regal Intention.
So you're going to win your 5th plate?
I'm hoping so, yeah.
Well, Sandy figures his main opposition from Granacus is jockey Jacinto Vasquez, 2-time Kentucky Derby winner with Foolish Pleasure and Genuine Risk. Taken off Risen Star, though, this year, who won the Preakness and the Belmont. Jim, how about the post positions with about 2.5 minutes to go?
Well, we have 11 starters, and the post positions have been shuffled around. This goes through lot. Grace Kelly will break from the rails. Sweeping Change next. And Regal Classic, who wears number 1 in his saddlecloth, will come from post 3. We see Granacus farther on the outside. Balsky's Prize there from post 7, who will have a good deal of speed. And coming widest is Plate Dancer from post 11.
All right, let's talk about number 4, Sweeping Change. Dan, I think you're out front. You can hear us now. He's owned by King Haven, who won last year with Market Control. And Dan Kenny, he's a son of Secretariat, and Secretariat's sons have done rather well this year.
Brian, if he has anything in his favor, that would be it, plus the fact that he's trained by Roger Atfield, who so superbly prepared Market Control last year. However, his form is not encouraging. 1 win out of 6 starts this year. The horse just doesn't seem to be the animal that he would need to be today to beat these type of high-quality colts.
King Haven, of course, has given us such high pleasure in recent years, and they're in a bit of a down spin right now, but we won't get on them because they're so entertaining and they have such good horses coming back.
How about this filly, Grace Kelly, Dan?
Well, Grace Kelly, I think, fits the mold of this is a race where anybody would want to be in it. This is a sport for dreamers, and I think the owner is entitled to dream. I will pass out cold down here if this filly is even in the money, but that's what makes horse racing. You have to have difference of opinion.
That piece of equipment you see on her in your screen right now is called a win-a-lot. Maybe prophetic, Brian.
How about Regal Intention? This is number 1A, and we should talk strategy here, fellas. He's a speed horse. He's a stablemate of Regal Classic. Jim, does he go out as a rabbit, or does he run to win?
The feeling is that his natural speed style will help the entry no matter what. Jack Lazan, I know, and Mr. Samuel have mentioned that he's on his own in this race. The way the speed is carrying on this track, he will be very tough to catch. We could see a 1-1 coming through the stretch.
Dan, one other horse. How about Rather Theatrical?
I really don't see anything outside the top 3. Rather Theatrical could not beat these horses in previous preps. He's an awfully nice horse, the type you'd love to own, but I honestly think it's going to come down to the fairly obvious. The Regal Classic, Granacus, from the 8th pole home. It should certainly be one to see.
All right, just a few seconds. Strategy, Jim, very quickly.
Well, there's going to be a lot of speed in the race. It belongs to Regal Intention, No Malice, and we'll watch Balsky's Pride from the outside. We don't know how far he'll go. The Chargers are Regal Classic. We see Ernie Samuel there sizing it up, and Granacus coming from way back.
Dan Kenny, a final word?
I wonder if Granacus would save ground on the rail, if Vasquez is daring enough to try and come inside rather than lose ground going outside. That's what I want to see.
Now, the track has favored the front runners, so it should be interesting. And as we said earlier, it's been a lightning fast track here at Woodbine. We're about all set for the 129th running of the oldest continuously run stakes race in North America. Once again, let's bring in Dan Loisel. Dan?
Thank you very much, Brian. We're waiting on Sweeping Change. King Haven won this race last year in 1987 with Market Control. They'll try to do it again with Sweeping Change. Rather Theatrical. Still standing in behind the gate. Dave Penna rides him. We'll get those 2 loaded, and we're underway. Just waiting on Rather Theatrical. They're at the post. They're off in the Queen's Plate. Regal Classic broke well from the outside. No Malice and Robin Potts has sent Balsky's Prize right to the front. They're moving in front of us for the first time. Balsky's Prize leads it by 2 lengths. No Malice is second. Regal Intention a close-up third. And Regal Classic is 4th. On the outside is Plate Dancer. Granacus is in between 3-year-olds. Lucky J.W. Sweeping Change closest to the rail. Then Tejabo, Grace Kelly, and Rather Theatrical is the early trailer in 11th. They're running through the clubhouse turn. Platz is going to try to nurse the speed of Balsky's Prize. They have a 6-length lead on Regal Intention. No Malice is on the extreme outside. Regal Classic in between 3-year-olds and Sweeping Change. Plate Dancers on the outside. Lucky J.W. Then further back to Granacus, Tejabo, Grace Kelly, and Rather Theatrical. The initial quarter was in 24 seconds, a half in 48. Baldsky's Prize lead has been cut to 3 lengths. Regal Intention is second. Plate Dancer looms boldly on the outside in third. Regal Classic reserved off the pace in fourth. 3/4 in 1:13 and 2. And Vasquez is asking Granacus to put in his run, and he's rowing now. He's picking them off one by one, and he's making a dramatic charge towards the leaders, and they have 3 furlongs to go. Regal Intention has taken over from Baldsky's Prize. Regal Classic is 2.5 lengths off his entry mate's lead. Granacus has 3.5 lengths to make up, and they come to the quarter pole. And Regal Intention is there by 2.5, and he looks strong. Hawley's asking Regal Classic to put in his run, and Vasquez drops Granacus to Regal Classic's inside. It's Regal Intention by 2. Regal Classic trying to catch him from second. Granacus is third, and the lone filly, Gray Skelly, is putting in a run on the far outside. A 16th to the finish. Regal Intention by 3.5 lengths, and he's not going to be caught. Here's the finish. Regal Intention wins the Queen's Plate. Regal Classic second, Granacus third, and Gray Skelly fourth. Then No Malice, Brian, Tejabo, Sweeping Change, rather theatrical, Lucky JW, Plate Dancer, and Baldsky's Prize. This colt was overlooked, Brian. There's no doubt about it. All the attention on the Sampson farm was focused on Regal Classic. Wazan dreamt that this horse was going to be there, and he was. Regal Intention, the 1988 winner of the Queen's Plate. Back downstairs to Brian Williams and Jim Bannon.
Well, after 12 tries, Ernie Samuel has finally won the Queen's Plate. He runs 1-2. There's your winner unofficially, Regal Intention. Vice Regent sired both Regal Classic and Regal Intention. We should point out, Jim Bannon, that we mentioned before the race, and you had your finger right on it, that this is a speed horse, but he would not be sacrificed. He was there to win.
Actually, Brian, he was rated off the pace. Baldsky's Prize, who we suspected may be a little counterfeit at this point in his career. He may turn out to be a genuine horse, but he really didn't have the seasoning, and it was kind of unfair for critical handicappers to ask him to go 1.25 miles. But by the time they hit the stretch, Regal Intention, who had stalked the leader, had taken off to about a 4-length lead. And let's face it, he fully benefited from the speed bias on this racetrack, and it totally worked against the second-place horse, Regal Classic, his entry mate, and the third-place finisher, Granacus, who was game in defeat. Of course, Ernie Samuel, full owner of Regal Intention, he's going to get 100% of the purse. He's going to get 75% of second spot, which Regal Classic gets, because he's 25% of that goes to Winfield's. But it may hurt Regal Classic's stud value just a little bit. They, as a matter of fact, were coming home a little slow at the end. I was looking for a better time than they recorded, Brian.
You know, the only loss this year for Regal Intention, he's won 5 of 6 races, was in the Marine Stakes. He was third behind Regal Classic and No Malice, but he was strong here this afternoon. It's Regal Intention, ridden by Jack Lozon. And, Jim, you've just written Fortune Teller down for me. We should explain as we take a look at the Royal Party about the Fortune Teller and jockey Jack Lozon.
Well, a pretty good story. He had a fortune teller tell Jack Lozon that he, in fact, was going to win the Queen's Plate today. Told him about a week ago, and sure enough, here it comes true.
I don't want to give her name. There'll be a lineup there tomorrow morning, longer than the lineups for ice cream and cold drinks here this afternoon. Stay with us. Our live coverage of the 1988 Queen's Plate will continue exclusively on Sports Weekend right after this. As we come back.